Hello everyone. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at something really cool, which is known as Sayintentions.ai, which is an attempt to use AI. It's actually GPT powered. I think it's 4 Omni is the current version they're using for the purposes of making air traffic control a little bit more authentic and kind of taking some of the edge off of people who are scared of things like VATSIM, for example. So I'll go ahead and open it up real quick here. I did get a full account here for this. I'll just kind of play with it. I love the fact they're warning it right in the front and saying, hey, just so you know, this is pre-release beta. Today what we're going to be doing is we're just going to be running it through its absolute basic tests here, just kind of seeing what it can do. I'm going to try to communicate to it in a way that I understand, and it's going to be kind of interesting to see how what I say actually lines up with what happens in the game. So this is going to be pretty exciting. I look forward to this because this will be a nice little kind of bummer. So first things first, it is the middle of the summer for us, and we do have ourselves the Beechcraft Duke, the standard model, and my right engine's basically doing the deed of trying to cool us off in here because it is just so incredibly hot in here. When I started the play, it was at 95, just to give you an idea. We're having a little bit of issues with the engines today because it's a little hot. We're getting a little of that nasty vapor lock, but that's not the problem. This is the point of this video. The purpose of this video, of course, is like I mentioned, is to basically demonstrate how the software works. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate ATIS, which I'm actually really excited about because I can come over here and I'll pop on ATIS, and what it will do is after turning it on, of course.
Visual approaches in use. Advise on course heading, altitude, and if flight following is requested. Read back all runway and hold short instructions. VFR departures contact clearance delivery on 121.6.
You'll notice it didn't start at the beginning, number one. Number two, it also told me I had Yankee. The other thing it told is it's got like the voice, like the robot. I love the robot. And it's also like staticky. I love it. I don't know. I'm being a bit of a nerd at the moment. So normally what we do, of course, is when I go to call them in the beginning of the day kind of a thing, is I go ahead and just sort of let them know my intentions with just a quick little good morning kind of a thing. But one thing we do want to do, though, is before we get too carried away, let's go ahead and open up the little moment over here. I'm going to go up to settings real fast here. And what I want to do in settings is I want to go in here. I just want to make sure I'm Red 6-4 because otherwise it's going to make me insane later on. Right on ground, Red 6-4 with Yankee. Good morning. So what they should do is just go back and good morning. We'll see what they say here. Like I said, it's kind of interesting. There's a little kind of relaxed.
Red 6-4, Brainerd ground. Good afternoon. Say your request.
See, say request. Brainerd ground, Red 6-4 is midfield, requesting taxi to active with departure to the north, as well as a flight following to Orange County Regional. That is Kilo Oscar Romeo Echo at 5,500. So that's basically what I would ask, and I would basically kind of give them sort of the whole little spiel here. Sometimes what I would do is I'd request one part of that and then ask the second part later, depending kind of what they're...
Taxi to runway 29er via Alpha, squawk 2744, contact tower on 119.6 when ready.
Taxi to unable 29, can we get a longer runway, please, Red 6-4? So my request here is a very realistic request. That's too short for us, but I'll be curious if they actually can do with it.
Red 6-4, taxi to runway
hey!
Alpha, squawk 2744, contact tower on 119.6 when ready.
Taxi to runway 2 via Alpha. Squawk today will be 2744. We'll contact tower on 119.6 when ready, Red 6-4. Nice! That's actually not bad. There's one little problem, though, and I'll show it to you on our little journey here, and I'll go ahead and give this thing a nice, gentle little push. So 119.6, Hartford is my airport, so one of the things I do is I actually took a couple moments here to actually punch that one in already. So there's a couple things we want to test to make sure that works okay. The first one is they mentioned that we're going to be taxiing on Alpha. It's not accurate because we need to go Delta Alpha to get to Alpha. So this is a Delta in the real world. This here is Alpha, so I'm actually taking a right turn. So they got the Alpha part right. So let's go ahead and take my nice gentle right turn and start heading down the hill here. Now, one of the fun things, of course, in the real world that we don't get here is we don't get the full experience of just all the potholes. They do a good job usually, but it ain't perfect, as they like to say. It ain't perfect. So let's see, a 2744. Usually what they'll do, too, is they'll tell you what your departure clearance is in the real world. So it kind of surprises me they're not telling me my departure clearance. Or not my departure clearance, the departure frequency. But like I said, it's not the end of the world. I already know it's going to be 127.8 unless, like I said, it reads it differently. And again, depending on the day, depending on what's going on at Bradley, which is kind of handles all the departure clearance stuff, that's kind of a big impact on it. Now, one of the things you probably notice is cloud's pretty low today. So I'm very curious to see if it kind of gets grumpy at us one way or another. The other thing I'm going to be very interested to hear today is to hear whether or not when we go over to Orange, which is untowered, is it going to hand us off, and is it going to cancel our flight following? So like I said, I'm kind of interested in this one because, like I said, it'll be kind of curious. Now, one of the known issues that I faced with this program, of course. Here's the problem. Here's the problem. So you notice they didn't tell us anything about 29er here. So what I should be able to do, in the real world, if they didn't give you cross, you'd have to do something like that. Actually, it's up there. Radar Tower, red 6-4, holding short of 29.
Echo taxi to holding point Charlie Tree via taxiways, Echo and Foxtrot.
Taxiing to holding point Charlie.
I'm just waiting for some of the chatter here.
Cessna 908 Charlie Echo.
I know Charlie Echo.
Red 6-4, contact tower on 119.6 when ready.
Radar Tower, red 6-4 is holding short of 29er, requesting clearance to cross it. Sorry, I had a little bit of impatience in my voice. I'm just curious to see how it handles that request.
Red 6-4, cross runway 2.
There it is.
Runway 2 via Alpha.
Cross 29er, taxi via Alpha to runway 2, red 6-4. So that's what I was waiting for. Okay. So interesting thing there is in the real world, your air traffic control would know pretty much intuitively the fact that if I'm just sitting there, especially like if you take a look, ATC is right there. So what they would do, of course, is they kind of let me know. So it's kind of interesting. We're not going to do a run up today. In the real world, we pull off to the right. There's no lights there on the right, but that doesn't really matter to us. So I'm going to go pop over here to the tower. Go ahead and hold that brake right there. Cool. So we're going to go over to 119.6. So we're just going to give them a call. Brandon Tower, red 6-4 is holding short of runway 2 on Alpha. Request north departure. That's all we got to ask. Just checking one last lights camera action. Looks good.
Red 6-4, Brainerd Tower, winds calm, runway 2, cleared for takeoff. After takeoff, enter left down.
What?
Straight out departure to the north.
That's interesting. So for takeoff, runway 2, red 6-4, we're going to do a left downwind into a straight out departure to the north. So that's new. Let's go ahead and check the approach here. Make sure nobody's sneaking in. Doesn't look like it today. Alrighty, let's do it. So they're going to give us most likely 127.8 is what I would expect. But like I said, I'm very curious. Again, this is an experiment to see if this is going to work. So I'll go ahead and sneak onto the runway here. Everything's good. Cow flaps are open. Temperatures are in the green. I shut the air conditioning off, which is a little miserable, but we'll deal with it, of course. All right, looking forward. Lights, camera, action. Let's go. Now, he said the wind was calm. Yeah, we have a right crosswind. That's okay, though. That's why they wanted to give us 2.9 originally, because the wind was coming from that other direction. If anything, this might be a tailwind. It's a bit of both. That's okay, though. All right, so the left down one is the part that I don't understand, because that would be a left turn. We don't do left turns in Hartford because of that. The city's right there, so we got to be kind of cautious. But we're here to amuse them, so we're going to go ahead and do exactly as they say, which is kind of good for us. Go ahead and take
Sure your destination is set correctly.
It is. So that was Jeff. There's actually little AI companions that kind of come in here, sort of a thing like that, that sort of give us all that different stuff. So I'm just going to assume that they gave us kind of the clearance, and we're going to go ahead and head over to the right here. Right there. Delightful. So we're just going to go ahead and continue our climb. Very much like to get the air conditioning back on here, but we're going to have to do a couple little things first. Get down to our climb power.
Red 6-4, contact departure.
Contact departure, red 6-4. So if you notice, they never gave me the departure frequency, which is a little like, kind of a thing like that. That's okay, because I can just boop like that. Early approach, red 6-4, 1,800, climbing 5,500.
Red 6-4, Bradley approach, radar contact.
Nice! Nice! Okay, I love that. Hey, that gets an A. That gets an A. So they gave me a radar contact. So one of the things I'm noticing as I'm just kind of enjoying my gentle little climb here is what I expect them to do is as we get closer to Bradley, they're going to hand us off to Bradley Tower and everything. But I'm looking over at the GUI real quick, and I believe it got the wrong destination. So one of the things that we're going to have to do here is just make a quick little correction. And I'm very curious to see if it is correctable. So like I said, this is an experiment. Right, approach red 6-4, requesting flight following to Kilo Oscar Romeo Echo. I'm just curious if they do.
6-4, you already have flight following to KMGJ.
Ah, I was right. It's on the wrong one. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll cancel and re-get it. Bradley approach, Red 64, cancel flight following. This is a nice little exercise. Of course, we have to get into Bradley's air traffic. Oh, we've already done.
Red 64, roger. Radar services terminated. Squawk VFR.
Cool. So then what we're going to do is request our Bradley approach, Red 64, requesting flight following to Kilo Oscar Romeo Echo at 5,500. Let's see what happens here. Very curious. Getting out of the turbulence a little bit here. We're, of course, flying into Bradley airspace, but we're already talking to Bradley approach.
Squawk 2744 and ident.
2744 ident, Red 64.
Red 64, radar contact 2 south of Bancroft Airport at 4200 feet. East Windsor Hill, altimeter 29.85.
That's it. That's all we need. Once they say the magical words of radar contact, we are good to go. So we can continue our journey upwards here. Like I said, easy as that. Easy as that. And in the real world, that's usually about how hard those things need to be, which is actually pretty cool. That's fine. It's got to capture the heading anyway. Time to go ahead and get everything all nice and sorted out for us here. I think we're supposed to be on 3-1 as our bearing today. So let me get that all set up. There's our climb to our cruise altitude there. Air conditioning is coming back on.
Red 64, maintain VFR altitude.
Maintain VFR altitude, Red 64. Let this thing settle. It's got to come down to 5,500. We'll give it a few moments to kind of speed up. While we're doing that, we'll go ahead and close up those cow flaps a little bit, and we'll start settling into a little bit more comfortable of a revolutions per minute, comrades. About 2,500 looks good to me, and we'll back this down. 35 and 25 is going to be plenty of power for us. It's going to get us on the high side of 75% power, which is fine. A good time, of course, to go ahead and set up all mixtures, but we're so darn low. So if we start fiddling with the mixtures, it's not really going to do much for us. What I'm most interested to see now is, now that we're right on course, like I said, it's only a 12-minute journey, and we'll skip the middle, don't worry, is we're interested to see whether or not they're going to hand us off to Bradley Tower. We're above Bradley Tower. They should be handing us off to Bradley Approach North. Now, to give you an idea of all this, let me go ahead and open up Sky Vector real quick, and I'll bring it down so you can kind of get an idea of how effective, how good of a job they're doing so far. So let's go ahead and pop this in real quickly here. We took off from Hartford, and we're proceeding direct to Orange County Regional. When we do that, of course, you can see we're going to be sailing right through, but again, the altitude 2,200 feet here, not a problem for us. The outside 4,200, we're going to sail right through the edge of Tower airspace here. Actually, we're above it. I'm sorry. We're completely above it. So what they should do for us is they should give us 127.225 or 123.905 when we kind of cross over the top. So I'm very curious to see what they're going to do when we get to that particular point. Like I said, we're usually not this spoiled. VATSIM is wonderful, but they won't have all that full coverage that gets us that kind of ability to pop around, sort of thing. All right, let's go 123.905 here.
Red 64, contact Boston Center on 127.65.
127.65, Red 64. 127.65. All right, so they're handing us right off to Boston, which is fine. Boston Center, Red 64 with you, 5,500. See what happens there.
Red 64, Boston Center. Good afternoon. Warehouse point altimeter 29.85.
Go ahead and update it. That's all we got to do. So what I'll do in the real world is I the mic real quick just to let them know that I heard what they said. But again, once you've contacted them, you're good to go. So 365 is my temps. We're actually pretty cool right now, so I'm not complaining at all. I'll go ahead and close the cow flaps up a bit more here. All right, how are we doing for temps? It's 76 degrees. The air conditioning is on. I can see the things handled up there. So not too bad. Good time to go ahead and take a look at everything else we've got here. So let's go pop up to my cabin. Let's see, just kind of getting an idea of what's going on here. Yeah, it's not bad. It's about 63 outside, so we can actually probably pop off. We can go do one of these. We just turn the blower on, pop it on low. That's going to be more than enough to cool us off. If we actually take a look at it, you can see we're just grabbing air from outside, and it's actually cooler than what comes out of our AC. And it's nice to close our AC because that extra drag is up. It's a drag. That's the best way to describe that. All right, so we're cruising perfectly fine here. We're going to be on our way. One of the things we should always think about doing here is considering things like cruise altitude changes and stuff like that to see how it's going to manage that as well. And again, that's something I'd be very interested to kind of determine to see how good of a job it does it. So one of the things they did not do, or they did do, is you probably heard them when we said maintain VFR altitudes. That simply means that we're pretty much good as long as it is one of the east or west, odd, even altitudes, kind of a thing like that. But, if I requested 4,500, it would probably get grumpy at me. But again, I'm not going to try to blow its mind or anything. That's not the point. The point is just to see roughly how well this works. So I'm going to fast forward to when we get a little bit closer to Orange. All right, here comes the important part. So normally what we would do is we'd spot the runway. There's two things they'll do. They'll either immediately hand it off to us or they'll do this. But one of the cool things is we have Jeff to help us out here. But I also have everything that we need. So I'm very, very curious to see, is it going to know the correct frequency for the ATIS here? Now, there is no ATIS at Orange County. Actually, there is. It's 135.675. So let's ask. Jeff, what is the ATIS frequency of Orange Municipal Airport? So again, that's not asking air traffic control. That's asking the imaginary partner here to see whether or not he knows it. And again, we're looking for 135.675 here.
Hey, Philip, just a heads up. The ITIS frequency for Orange Municipal Airport is 120.15.
Oh, no, that's not correct. Bummer. Oh, well, doesn't matter. Like I said, it's not the end of the world. Oh, man, listen to that. Oh, man, so in the real world, we'd have to, like, fiddle with the squelch to try to get that to work. That was a disaster. I got a little bit of information out of that. I think basically what it's saying here is our wind is 160 at 6. Yikes. So let's go ahead and call air traffic control and say airport is in sight and see what they do. They should release us. Boston approach. Red 64 has the airport in sight. So what they should do is cancel IFR.
Red 64, contact Orange Tower on 122.8.
Interesting. Okay. 122.8. 122.8. We'd like to cancel flight following at this time, Red 64. Nice. I like that. I like that. So 122.8, you can see it's all queued up for me. It's actually, he's supposed to talk back to me.
Red 64, roger. Radar services terminated. Squawk VFR. Frequency change approved.
Nice. That's it. That's fantastic. Not bad. Not bad at all. Nice. I'm actually pleasantly surprised across the board here. So let's go ahead and reduce power a little bit here. We got a starter descent. There we go, about pretty close. So we know the wind is coming out of the south here, and we're having a pretty good time here. So one other thing I'm kind of curious about, let's see if our co-pilot Jeff knows what the traffic pattern altitude is. Jeff, what is the traffic pattern altitude at Kilo Oscar Romeo Echo? I'm just curious. If I had to guess, it's about 1,500, 1,600 feet.
Pattern altitude in Orange Municipal Airport, or is typically 1,555 feet MSL.
Nice!
Feet above the field elevation of 555 feet.
That's excellent. I am so happy about. You have no idea. That is awesome. That's usually something I fly with my wife. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll have to ask. I'll go, Nicole, what's the traffic pattern altitude? Because she's the one with the tablet, so to speak. Well, I'm the one basically operating the plane, kind of a thing like that. So another thing I'm very interested in here is our buddy Jeff there. How well he can help us out with things like checklists for landing. Let's find out what happens. Jeff, could you give me the before landing checklist, please? Let's see what he does. I'm curious. Again, you can see.
The before landing checklist isn't a standard term. Did you mean the before landing checklist? If so, it includes fuel selection, mixture rich, propeller full increase, landing lights on,
Nice.
seatbelt is fastened, and flaps as required.
Oh. I like how I heard the word lighting and not landing. I mean, I don't hate that. That's actually probably something I would do in the real world. So it's kind of one of those things. There's our lovely runway there. Looking pretty good. I like how they're like, do not land on the grass. Very, very handy. So as you can see, they did a really, really nice job here. There's a lot of really good things. And again, that's all AI generated. It's not like it needed any special app or anything like that, other than, of course, the program that's currently running at the moment. Just an easy way to look out the window here. But I'm pretty impressed. I'm pretty darn impressed, kind of a thing like that. And one other thing that he'll do for you, of course, is he can actually read you things about the airplane and stuff like that. And I feel like there's a lot of potential here for basically making it so you can customize some of these items as well. I mean, I like the way that it's set up now, but it would be amazing if we had the ability to actually, do something specific for the airplane if we wanted to, like be able to basically say this is a specific checklist, and maybe even be able to check to make sure those particular items went down. So, rather than having, these... Uh-oh. Somebody else is coming into orange, it sounds like. Oh, this is such an embarrassingly bad approach. But we can't just start end the video in the air. Like, that's just not okay. That would just be weird. Jeff, prepare for after landing checklist. I don't know. I'll just say prepare for it. I don't think that'll make any difference. But like I said, I'm just playing with it. I'm playing with it.
After landing checklist includes flaps up, transponder standby, landing lights off.
I love that.
Don't forget to clear the runway and contact ground for taxi instructions.
We don't need to. We're uncontrolled. And yes, I know I did not call, short field landing or anything like that. And that's very naughty of me. But you all get the idea. Like I said, I'm really impressed with this. I like the way that ATIS is actually like an ATIS rather than like, just that beep, 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 beep kind of a thing like that you would normally get. Love the ground effect with this plane. Just whoa. We're here. A little bit of right wheel just to stay us grounded, and we're perfectly delightful. Excellent. So for our next video, what we'll do is we'll load up an airliner and we'll try a flight in IFR instead of VFR to see if it makes a difference. Enjoy.